The restaurant was packed that Friday night, every table buzzing with conversation and laughter. I sat across from my wife, Claire, and her daughter Vanessa, trying to enjoy my steak. Then Vanessa leaned back in her chair, smirking at me with that look I'd grown to recognize. She raised her voice just loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "So, Benjamin, tell everyone what you do for work again," she said, eyes gleaming with mischief. I set down my fork carefully. "I'm a facilities manager." "Right," she laughed. "That's a fancy way of saying you clean toilets for a living." The table next to us glanced over. Claire giggled behind her wine glass. My face burned hot as Vanessa continued, clearly enjoying herself. She pulled out her phone and pretended to scroll through job listings. "Here's one. They're hiring for real careers. You know, jobs that don't involve mopping floors at your age." Then came the line that changed everything. "Imagine being this old and still a janitor." I gripped my napkin under the table, forcing my expression to stay neutral. But inside, something snapped. I looked at Claire, waiting for her to defend me. She just sighed and looked away. Vanessa wasn't done. She angled her phone toward me, showing Indeed listings for warehouse supervisors and retail managers. Strangers at neighboring tables were definitely listening now. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed amused. "Seriously, Benjamin, there are night school programs," Vanessa continued. "You could actually make something of yourself." Claire reached for her wine, taking a long sip. I waited for her to say something, anything, to shut this down. Instead, she muttered, "Please don't make a scene tonight." Those words hit harder than Vanessa's insults. Don't make a scene. I wasn't the one humiliating anyone in public. I set my jaw and looked directly at Vanessa. "I'm perfectly happy with my work," I said quietly. She rolled her eyes. "Of course you are. Because you don't know any better." The waiter appeared with dessert menus, sensing the tension. I waved him away and asked for the check. The ride home was going to be long, but I'd already made a decision in my mind. This couldn't continue. The car ride home was suffocating. Vanessa scrolled through her phone in the back seat, occasionally laughing at something. Claire stared out the passenger window, her jaw tight. I focused on the road, hands gripping the steering wheel. Finally, I broke the silence. "Why didn't you say anything back there?" Claire turned to me, her expression cold. "Because you need to grow thicker skin. It was just teasing." "That wasn't teasing." She exhaled sharply. "You know what? I'm embarrassed when people ask what you do." There, I said it. That word, embarrassed, echoed in my head. I felt my chest tighten. 15 years of marriage, and she was embarrassed by me. I pulled into our driveway and killed the engine. Vanessa jumped out immediately, heading inside without a word. Claire lingered in her seat. "I didn't mean it like that." "Yes, you did." I got out and walked to the house, leaving her sitting there. Inside, I went straight to the bedroom and closed the door. I stared at the ceiling that night, already knowing what I had to do. Monday morning, I arrived at the building early. The sun hadn't fully risen yet, casting long shadows across the parking lot. I unlocked the main entrance and walked through the quiet lobby, my footsteps echoing on the polished tile. This place had been my second home for 15 years. I knew every pipe, every electrical panel, every quirk in the heating system. The tenants respected me. The small maintenance staff respected me. But at home, my work was a punchline. I headed to my office, a modest room tucked behind the boiler area. I kept it simple, a desk, a filing cabinet, a coffee maker. On the wall hung my certifications and a single framed photo of the building on opening day. What Claire and Vanessa didn't know was that I didn't just work here. I owned every square foot of it. I'd bought the property years before I met Claire, back when it was a struggling office complex. Through careful management and strategic tenant selection, I'd turned it profitable. But I never told them. And now I was glad. Around 10 o'clock, one of my long-term tenants, Douglas, stopped by my office. He ran an insurance agency on the 3rd floor and always treated me with genuine kindness. "Morning, Benjamin," he said, holding a coffee cup. "Wanted to give you a heads up. Heard the building might be changing ownership soon." I smiled, knowing exactly where this rumor came from. Every few months, someone speculated about new ownership. I'd started the rumor myself years ago to keep people from asking too many questions. "Just talk," I assured him. "Everything's stable." Douglas nodded, relieved. "Good. You run a tight ship here. Best maintained building I've ever rented in." After he left, I leaned back in my chair. The building generated steady income through commercial leases. I lived modestly by choice, not necessity. The old truck I drove, the simple clothes I wore, none of it reflected my actual financial situation. I'd kept this secret because I valued privacy. But now, that secret was about to become something else entirely. That evening, Vanessa cornered Claire in the kitchen. I was in the living room but could hear every word through the thin walls. "Mom, we need to talk about him." "Vanessa, not now. I'm serious. He's a loser. My friends ask what my stepdad does, and I have to lie because it's embarrassing." I heard Claire sigh. "He's not that bad." "He is, though. You deserve better." "We both do. Honestly, I think Benjamin should move out for a while. Give us some space." My hands clenched into fists. "Move out? From my own house?" I waited for Claire to shut this down. Instead, I heard her say softly, "Maybe that's not the worst idea." I stood up and walked into the kitchen. Both of them turned to face me. "You want me to leave?" I asked Claire directly. She looked uncomfortable but didn't back down. "Just temporarily. To give everyone time to think." I studied her face, searching for any sign of the woman I'd married. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Fine," I said quietly. "I'll pack tonight." I asked Claire one question before I started packing. We stood in our bedroom, the door closed, Vanessa's music thumping from down the hall. "Do you respect me?" She hesitated. That pause lasted maybe 3 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I thought marrying you was temporary stability. Until something better came along." Those words didn't make me angry. They made everything clear. She'd never seen me as a partner, just a safety net. I nodded slowly, absorbing the truth. "Got it," I said. I pulled a duffel bag from the closet and started filling it with clothes. Claire watched me, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. She didn't apologize. She didn't try to take it back. When I finished packing, I walked past her without another word. Vanessa was in the living room, earbuds in, scrolling her phone. She glanced up as I headed for the door and actually smirked. Neither of them asked where I was going. I closed the front door behind me and loaded my bag into the truck. For the first time in months, I felt lighter. I drove to a modest apartment complex on the east side of town. I'd kept this place for years as an investment property, occasionally renting it out. Right now, it was vacant, which worked perfectly. The apartment was small but clean. 1 bedroom, a decent kitchen, a living room with a view of the park. I dropped my bag on the couch and stood in the silence. No judgmental stares. No condescending comments. Just peace. That night, I called my attorney, Paul. We'd worked together for years handling property contracts and tenant disputes. "I need to update my will," I told him, "and start separating my assets." Paul didn't ask questions. "Come by the office tomorrow. We'll get everything sorted." After hanging up, I sat by the window and watched cars pass below. Somewhere across town, Claire and Vanessa probably thought I was staying at a cheap motel, broken and desperate. They had no idea I was planning my exit strategy. Tomorrow, I'd start building a new life. One where my worth wasn't measured by their opinions. Over the next week, I met with Paul 3 times. We went through everything: bank accounts, property titles, investment portfolios. I'd kept my finances separate from Claire throughout our marriage, which made this easier. "You're in good shape, Benjamin," Paul said, reviewing documents. "Everything's clearly yours. The house is in your name only, correct?" "Correct. I bought it before we got married." He made notes. "And she's aware of this?" "She never asked." Paul raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. We finalized the updates to my will, removing Claire entirely. Then we discussed next steps. Divorce? He asked bluntly. Soon, I said. I want to wait for the right moment. At work, I made a quiet change. I promoted one of my maintenance staff to supervisor and stepped back from daily repairs. To tenants, I explained I was focusing more on administrative duties. They accepted it without question. To Claire and Vanessa, it would look like I was losing responsibilities. In reality, I was positioning myself for what came next. 2 weeks after moving out, I got an unexpected text from Vanessa. She'd attached a screenshot of a job posting at my building, an office administrator position. Guess where I just got hired? LOL, maybe I'll see you mopping floors. I stared at the message, a slow smile spreading across my face. She'd landed a job at my building. This was almost too perfect. I texted back a simple, "Congratulations." The office administrator role reported to one of my tenant companies, a marketing firm on the second floor. They'd posted the position last month, and I'd approved the listing. I had no idea Vanessa had applied. Now she'd be working in my building, completely oblivious to who really owned it. She'd see me around, probably make snide comments, and continue believing I was just the maintenance guy. I forwarded her text to Paul with a note, "This is going to be interesting." He replied immediately, "Be careful. Document everything." Smart advice. I planned to follow it. Vanessa's first day arrived. I made sure to be in the lobby when she walked through the doors, dressed in business casual and carrying a new leather bag. She spotted me immediately and couldn't resist. "Oh hey, do you work here too?" she asked, voice dripping with fake surprise. "I do." Small world. She looked me up and down. "Guess you're still doing the maintenance thing?" "Something like that." She walked past me toward the elevators, already texting someone. I watched her go, then returned to my office. Later that morning, Douglas stopped by. "That new girl on 2, she related to you?" "My stepdaughter." He frowned. "She just complained about the temperature in the break room. Said she'd talk to whoever's in charge, if it wasn't fixed immediately." I made a note. "I'll handle it." Over the next few days, reports filtered back to me. Vanessa was making waves, arriving late, sending demanding emails, talking down to other staff. The marketing firm's manager, Patricia, looked increasingly frustrated each time I saw her. Everything was being documented in their HR files. I didn't need to do anything except watch. 3 weeks in, Claire called me. Her tone was suddenly warm, almost sweet. It put me on guard immediately. "Hey, how are you?" "Fine. Listen, I know things have been tense, but I was hoping we could talk about maybe helping out with some bills. Vanessa's new job doesn't pay as much as we hoped, and rent is tight." There it was. They needed money. "You want me to help financially," I said flatly. "Well, you're still my husband. That's what husbands do, right?" I almost laughed. When I was living under her roof, I was an embarrassment. Now that I'd left, I was supposed to be a provider. "I'll think about it," I said. "Maybe we can discuss it in person." "Really?" She sounded relieved. "That would be great." "When?" "I'll let you know." I hung up and immediately called Paul. "Start preparing divorce papers. I want them ready within 2 weeks." "You got it." The pieces were falling into place faster than I'd expected. Now I just needed to wait for the right moment to make my move. At the building, Vanessa's behavior worsened. Patricia came to me personally, looking exhausted. "Benjamin, I need to talk to you about the administrator position." We sat in my office. She pulled out a folder thick with incident reports. Late arrivals, missed deadlines, rude interactions with clients. Vanessa had been there less than a month and already created a hostile work environment. "I want to terminate her," Patricia said. "But given that she's related to you, I wanted your input first." I kept my expression neutral. "Treat her like any other employee. If she's not meeting expectations, follow your standard procedures." "You're sure?" "Completely. Give her a written warning first. If things don't improve, do what you need to do." Patricia looked relieved. "Thank you. I'll issue the warning tomorrow." After she left, I sat back in my chair. This was Vanessa's chance to turn things around. If she took the warning seriously, she might keep her job. If she didn't, well, that was her choice. I texted Paul, "Things are progressing. Stand by." His response, "Ready when you are." The written warning went about as well as expected. According to Patricia, Vanessa laughed it off, then complained to her co-workers that the company was targeting her. "Some old guy with no authority is probably behind this," she'd said in the break room, clearly referring to me. When Vanessa saw me in the hallway that afternoon, she didn't hold back. "You know they're trying to fire me, right? This building is so unprofessional. I'm half tempted to report everyone." I nodded calmly. "I hope things work out." She scoffed and walked away. 2 days later, Patricia returned to my office with finality in her eyes. "I'm terminating her employment. Effective immediately. She's been insubordinate, missed another deadline, and spoke inappropriately to a client." "You have documentation?" "Everything's filed with HR. I also ran it past ownership." I managed not to smile. "Past ownership?" "Yeah, I sent the approval request up the chain. Got the green light this morning." That approval had come to my email at 6 a.m. I'd responded with a single word, "Approved." "Sounds like you followed protocol," I said. "Good luck with the conversation." Patricia left to handle the termination. I stayed in my office, waiting. Vanessa's termination happened in a small conference room on the second floor. I wasn't there, but Patricia told me everything afterward. Vanessa had screamed about favoritism and corruption. She'd threatened legal action. Patricia had remained calm, presenting the documentation page by page. Then she'd mentioned that ownership had personally approved the decision. "Ownership?" Vanessa had repeated, confused. "Yes. The building's owner reviewed your file and agreed termination was appropriate." Vanessa had gone quiet for a moment, then demanded to know who the owner was. Patricia explained that ownership preferred to remain private, but that all decisions were properly documented. Security escorted Vanessa out 20 minutes later. She'd been crying, clutching a box with her few personal items. Several people saw her leave, including Douglas, who caught my eye from across the lobby and gave a subtle nod. That evening, Claire called me again. This time, she was furious. "They fired Vanessa. Can you believe it? I heard. This is outrageous. That building targeted her from day one. Someone needs to be held accountable." I let her vent for a full minute before speaking. "Let's meet in person. We can discuss everything then." "Fine. When?" "Tomorrow night. I'll send you the address." I scheduled the meeting for 6 p.m. in the building's private conference room, the executive suite on the top floor. Most tenants didn't even know it existed. I'd used it maybe 5 times in 15 years, always for major contract signings. Claire texted back immediately when I sent the address, "Why are we meeting at that building?" "Neutral ground," I replied. "Plus, I have access." She didn't question it further. Vanessa sent her own message, "This better be good. I'm not apologizing for anything." I didn't respond. Instead, I spent the day preparing. Paul had delivered the divorce papers that morning. They sat in a manila folder on my desk, next to a bottle of water and 3 coffee cups. At 5:30, I went upstairs to the conference room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The table was polished mahogany, surrounded by leather chairs. On the wall hung a brass plaque with the building's dedication. I unlocked the door with my master key and set everything up. Coffee brewing, documents ready, my name engraved on the wall behind where they'd sit. At 5:55, I stood by the window and waited. Claire and Vanessa arrived together at 6 sharp. I heard the elevator ding, then footsteps in the hallway. I opened the door before they could knock. "Come in." They entered slowly, looking around the elegant space with obvious surprise. Claire's eyes swept across the expensive furniture and the skyline view. Vanessa noticed the coffee station. "How did you get access to this room?" Claire asked. "I've always had it." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Right. Because the janitor has keys to the executive conference room." I gestured to the chairs. "Please, sit." They exchanged glances but sat down. I poured coffee for each of them, then took my seat across the table. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Vanessa broke the silence. So what's this about? Are you finally going to admit you sabotaged my job? I didn't sabotage anything. Claire leaned forward. Then why are we here? I took a slow sip of coffee, letting the tension build. Then I set down my cup and pointed to the wall behind them. See that plaque? They both turned. The brass gleamed under the recessed lighting. Engraved in clear letters, dedicated 2010, owner, Benjamin. Silence filled the room. Claire's face went pale. She stood up slowly, walking closer to the plaque as if she couldn't believe what she was reading. Vanessa stayed frozen in her chair, her mouth slightly open. Owner, Claire whispered. That's right. Vanessa found her voice. That has to be a mistake. You're just the maintenance guy. I leaned back in my chair, completely calm. I'm the owner. I've owned this building for 15 years. I bought it before I met Claire. I manage it personally, which is why I handle facilities. But every lease, every contract, every decision, it all comes through me. Claire turned to face me, her expression shifting from shock to something close to horror. You never told me. You never asked. Vanessa's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. So when I got fired, I approved it. Patricia brought me the documentation. You violated company policies repeatedly. The termination was justified and legal. The room went deathly quiet. I could see their minds racing, replaying every insult, every dismissive comment, every moment they treated me like I was beneath them. Claire sank back into her chair. Why didn't you tell us? Because I valued privacy. And honestly, I wanted to see who you really were. Vanessa recovered first, her shock turning to anger. This is sick. You let me humiliate myself on purpose. I didn't let you do anything. You made your choices. I wouldn't have said those things if I'd known. Exactly, I said quietly. You treated me that way because you thought I was powerless. Now you know the truth. Claire's voice shook. So what happens now? I reached for the manila folder and slid it across the table. Divorce papers. I'm filing tomorrow. Her hands trembled as she opened the folder. She scanned the first page, then looked up at me with tears forming in her eyes. Please, we can fix this. I was wrong. I was stressed and stupid, but we can work through it. You told me I was temporary. That you were waiting for something better. I didn't mean it. I stood up, straightening my jacket. Yes, you did. And that's fine. You're free to find whatever you're looking for. But you'll do it without my support. Vanessa jumped up. You can't just abandon us. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm removing myself from a situation where I'm not valued. Claire's desperation escalated quickly. She stood and reached for my hand, but I stepped back. Remember when we went to the coast? Our anniversary trip? That meant something, didn't it? It did. But then you told me you were embarrassed by me. You asked me to leave my own house. Our house, she corrected weakly. My house. I bought it in 2008. Check the deed. Her face crumpled. Vanessa looked between us, clearly realizing just how badly they'd miscalculated. Mom, do something, Vanessa urged. Claire wiped her eyes. What do you want? Money. I'll pay you back for everything. I don't want your money. I want my dignity back. I walked to the window, looking out at the city lights beginning to glow in the dusk. Behind me, I heard Claire crying softly. Vanessa paced the room, her earlier confidence completely gone. This isn't revenge, I continued. This is me choosing to surround myself with people who respect me. You both made it clear I didn't fit that category. People make mistakes. Claire shouted. They do. And people also face consequences. I turned back to face them. The apartment you're living in? Mine. I'll give you 60 days to find a new place. That's more than generous. Claire's tears turned to panic. 60 days. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. You're really going to throw us out on the street? I shook my head. I'm giving you 2 months' notice to find housing. The law only requires 30 days. You'll also keep whatever money is in your personal accounts. I'm not taking anything from you. I'm simply stopping my support. Vanessa finally spoke, her voice small. I didn't know about any of this. You didn't know because you never bothered to learn. You saw what you wanted to see, someone you could look down on. She bit her lip, tears starting to stream down her face. I'm sorry. Sorry that you said it, or sorry that you got caught. She didn't answer. Claire gathered her purse, hands shaking. Can we at least talk about this later? When everyone's calmer. There's nothing left to discuss. Paul will handle the paperwork. If you have questions about the divorce or the property, contact him. I handed Claire his business card. She took it like it was a death sentence. I loved you, she whispered. Maybe. But you didn't respect me. And I've learned that's more important. I walked them to the elevator. Neither spoke during the short journey down the hallway. When the doors opened, Vanessa stepped inside first, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Claire hesitated in the doorway. Is there really nothing I can say? You had months to say something. Years, even. You chose to stay silent when your daughter humiliated me. You chose to admit I embarrassed you. Those were your choices. People change. They do. But I don't trust that you have. The elevator doors began to close. Claire stuck her hand out to stop them. What about forgiveness? I forgive you. But that doesn't mean I'm staying. I stepped back, and this time she let the doors close. I watched the numbers descend. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ground. Then I returned to the conference room. The coffee was getting cold. The divorce papers sat on the table where Claire had left them. I gathered everything slowly, taking my time. My phone buzzed. A text from Paul. How'd it go? Exactly as expected, I typed back. Need anything? No. I'm good. And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. Vanessa tried one last text the next morning. I was at my apartment, drinking coffee and reading the news, when my phone lit up. You hid everything on purpose. You wanted us to look stupid. I stared at the message for a moment, then typed a response. I didn't hide my success. You just never asked about my life. You only made assumptions and jokes. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. I was a kid when you married Mom. I didn't know better. You're 26. And you knew better at the restaurant. You chose cruelty. The dots appeared one more time, then stopped. She didn't respond again. That afternoon, Douglas stopped by the building. He found me in the parking lot, inspecting a light fixture. Heard some interesting news, he said with a grin. Yeah. Word is the owner finally revealed himself. That true? I smiled. Might be. He laughed and clapped me on the shoulder. About time, Benjamin. You've been running this place like a ghost for years. People should know who to thank. After he left, I stood in the parking lot and looked up at the building. 15 years of careful management, quiet decisions, and steady growth. This place represented everything I'd built, and nobody could take it from me. I walked through the building one more time that evening, after most tenants had left. The lobby was quiet, the hallways empty. My footsteps echoed on the tile as I made my rounds. On the 3rd floor, I ran into Patricia. She was locking up her office, briefcase in hand. Evening, she said warmly. Thanks again for backing me up on that termination. I know it was complicated. You followed the rules. That's all that mattered. She hesitated. For what it's worth, I'm sorry it had to be family. Don't be. She made her choices. Patricia nodded and headed for the elevator. I continued my walk, checking doors and windows out of habit. In my old office behind the boiler room, I found my replacement supervisor doing paperwork. Need anything? I asked. He looked up, surprised. No, sir. All good, sir. That was new. Word had spread fast. I left the building at 7, locking the front entrance behind me. The evening air was cool, the sky turning deep purple. I climbed into my truck and sat there for a moment, engine running. No more pretending. No more hiding. Just peace. 6 months later, I was standing in that same parking lot when I saw Claire's car drive past slowly. She didn't stop, but I saw her looking at the building through the windshield. Our divorce had been finalized 3 months earlier. I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that she and Vanessa had moved to an apartment across town. Vanessa found work at a retail store. Claire picked up hours at a salon. They were managing, but barely. Part of me felt sympathy. A smaller part wondered if they'd learned anything. Douglas approached from the entrance, holding a file folder. "Got those lease renewal numbers you wanted, Benjamin?" "Thanks." As he walked away, I thought about everything that had happened. The humiliation at the restaurant. The betrayal in my own home. The quiet satisfaction of watching the truth unfold. I never needed their approval. I just needed my own silence and patience. Power doesn't announce itself with grand gestures or loud proclamations. It sits quietly, waiting. And the people who mock you the loudest, they're usually standing on ground you own, completely unaware of who's really in control. I climbed into my truck and drove away, leaving the building behind in the rearview mirror. The life I'd built was still standing. And that was enough.